Introduced in 1940, the Chrysler New Yorker became more than just a car. It became a statement of American ambition, craftsmanship, and style. Across its long 52-year run, it stood proudly as Chrysler's flagship, embodying the company's pursuit of prestige and power. Few nameplates in automotive history have endured so long, evolving through decades of changing design languages, shifting tastes, and economic turbulence. But among the many versions that bore the New Yorker badge, the 1960 model remains one of the most fascinating. A car that perfectly captures the optimism and extravagance of its era, while showcasing Chrysler's unwavering belief in the future of automotive design. I've always had a soft spot for cars like this, machines that represent the very edge of what an automaker dared to do, not for practicality, but for the sheer joy of creating something beautiful. The 1960 New Yorker belongs to that rare breed. It wasn't built to blend in or to quietly move through traffic. It was made to turn heads, to dominate the road with its elegance and presence. When it was introduced, America was standing on the cusp of a new decade, one defined by the promise of progress, space-age dreams, and boundless optimism. And you can see every bit of that confidence reflected in the car's styling. The redesign for 1960 was dramatic. Virgil Exner, Chrysler's celebrated design chief and the father of the forward look, wanted to make a statement. His design philosophy revolved around the idea of motion, even when a car stood still. With its massive, trapezoidal front grille, sharp creases, and flowing body lines, the New Yorker looked like it was slicing through the air even when parked. The fins, once symbols of flight and futuristic thinking, were beginning to fall out of fashion by 1960, but Exner wasn't ready to abandon them. Instead, he refined them. On this car, the fins are slightly slanted, extending elegantly from the rear doors all the way to the taillights. They're not as exaggerated as the late 1950s models, but they still carry that unmistakable mid-century flair. To me, those fins are part of what makes this particular car so special. They define an era, one when car designers weren't constrained by market research or computer modeling. They worked from instinct, from art, from a sense of what would make people dream. The 1960 New Yorker captures that spirit perfectly. Every detail, from the angled C-shaped taillights to the subtle chrome accents running along its sides, tells you that this was a car meant to impress not just the driver, but anyone who happened to see it roll by. And then there's that optional trunk lid with the imitation spare tire, a nod to the flamboyant design cues of the late 50s. It's the kind of feature that makes you smile, even if it serves no practical purpose. When I first saw this car, the one featured by the YouTube channel Orphan Car Garage, I was immediately struck by how well it has survived. Painted in a factory-correct Starlight Blue, it gleams with the kind of quiet dignity that only an older car can possess. The paint was redone back in 1981, which means it's now more than 4 decades old. Yet somehow it still looks remarkably fresh. There's a depth to the color, a shimmering quality that accentuates every curve and line of the body. You can almost imagine it parked under the bright lights of a mid-century showroom, drawing crowds of curious onlookers. While many restorations tend to overdo the shine or stray from original finishes, this one strikes the perfect balance. The paintwork isn't flawless. It carries the soft patina of age, but that's what makes it beautiful. It's a survivor, not a show queen. The chrome trim, some of it replated over the years, catches the sunlight just right, while the classic Chrysler emblem still stands proud at the front. Walk around the car and you'll notice how the proportions, while undeniably large by modern standards, have a certain grace to them. The long hood, the sweeping roofline, the sculpted rear, all of it flows together like a well-composed piece of music. Step inside, and you're immediately transported to another time. The interior is a masterpiece of color and texture, a living snapshot of early 1960s luxury. Chrysler was known for pushing boundaries in interior design, and the New Yorker was no exception. The door panels feature a 3-tone combination of blue, cream, and silver, each section divided by thin chrome strips that catch the light like jewelry. The seats, upholstered in 2-tone fabric and vinyl, are plush yet structured, offering that perfect balance between comfort and formality. Unlike so many cars from this era that have faded or cracked interiors, this one remains astonishingly well preserved. The seats show minimal wear, the headliner is spotless, and even the carpets retain their original texture. Then there's the Astrodome instrument cluster, a name that sounds almost whimsical today, but at the time it represented the cutting edge of design. It's a dome-shaped, semi-transparent panel that houses all the key gauges under a single curved lens, illuminated with soft green lighting. Looking at it, you can see how Chrysler designers were inspired by the space race, by the fascination with rockets, satellites, and the promise of interplanetary travel. The Astrodome wasn't just an instrument panel. It was a glimpse into the future. Sitting behind it feels like piloting a spacecraft, especially when you imagine how futuristic this must have looked to drivers in 1960. This particular New Yorker has just 82,908 miles on the odometer, likely original according to the owner. That's remarkable for a car that's more than 6 decades old. The engine, too, remains the same mighty 413 cubic inch, 6.8-liter V8 that Chrysler proudly marketed as the Golden Lion. It's a name that fits perfectly, because under the hood this car truly roars. When new, it produced 350 horsepower and an impressive 470 pound-feet of torque, figures that still command respect today. Paired with the legendary 3-speed TorqueFlite automatic transmission, it delivered effortless performance and buttery smooth shifts. Driving a car like this isn't about speed or handling precision. It's about presence. You don't push it hard through corners or chase lap times. You glide. The big V8 hums with confidence. The suspension floats over imperfections, and the cabin envelopes you in a cocoon of sound and motion. The steering is light, the brakes firm but predictable, and every action feels deliberate. It's the kind of car that makes you slow down and savor the journey, not rush to the destination. Of course, no classic is complete without its quirks. The basket-style wire wheels on this example, while not original, add a touch of personality. Some purists might argue that the car should wear its factory full-disc wheels, but I disagree. The wire wheels complement its elegant lines, giving it a slightly custom look without compromising authenticity. It's a tasteful choice, one that enhances rather than detracts from its appeal. What makes this car even more fascinating is its story. It has spent several decades with the same owner, lovingly maintained and preserved through changing times. There's something deeply moving about that kind of dedication. You can tell when a car has been cherished, when it's more than just a possession. The way the doors close with a solid thunk, the condition of the chrome knobs and switches, the careful upkeep of the paint. All of it tells a story of respect and admiration. And now it's looking for a new home. With an asking price of $24,900, it's not just an artifact, it's an opportunity. For that amount, you could own a piece of Chrysler's golden age, a car that once symbolized success and sophistication. Compared to the rarer two-door hardtops, convertibles, or station wagons, the four-door sedan may not command the highest prices, but that's exactly what makes it such a compelling find. Out of the 19,390 New Yorkers built in 1960, 9,079 were four-door sedans. That means this version was once the family flagship, the car you drive to church on Sundays or park proudly in front of your suburban home. The affordability doesn't diminish its charm. In fact, I'd argue it enhances it. The 1960 New Yorker sedan is a gateway into classic luxury, a car that delivers style, comfort, and history without the six-figure price tag. And for enthusiasts like me, that's what makes it truly special. You can enjoy it without fear of devaluing a rare museum piece. You can drive it, show it, and share its story. When you see it gliding down the road today, surrounded by a sea of anonymous modern cars, it's impossible not to notice how much character it has. The wide chrome grille, the gleaming trim, the subtle curve of the fenders. It all exudes personality. Even parked at a red light, it attracts attention. People turn their heads, point, smile. Some might remember their parents or grandparents owning one. Others might be seeing such a car for the first time. Either way, it sparks something, a connection to a time when automobiles were more than transportation. It's easy to forget just how advanced Chrysler was in those years. The company was experimenting with unit body construction, push-button transmissions, and futuristic styling. The New Yorker represented the pinnacle of those efforts, bridging the gap between luxury and innovation. It wasn't a Cadillac or a Lincoln. It was something different, something bolder. It had a distinct personality, an American mix of confidence and charm. Every time I sit in a car like this, I can't help but think about the world it came from. The early 1960s were an age of optimism. America was booming, highways were expanding, and the space race was inspiring dreams of exploration. The Chrysler New Yorker fit perfectly into that narrative. It was the car of the modern American dream, powerful, stylish, and built to last. You can almost imagine the kind of people who bought it. Businessmen in crisp suits, families on cross-country vacations, young couples proud to own something that represented success. Today, owning a 1960 New Yorker means owning a tangible piece of that history. Every line of chrome, every button on the dashboard, every note from that V8 engine carries echoes of the past. It's not about perfection. It's about authenticity. You can restore a car to showroom condition, but you can't recreate the feeling of one that's lived a life, that's been driven and loved. This Starlight Blue sedan is exactly that kind of car. I think that's why it resonates so strongly with me. It's not just the design or the engineering. It's the emotion it evokes. The sense of pride, nostalgia, and wonder. When I see the sunlight reflecting off those fins, or hear the gentle rumble of the 413, I'm reminded of why I fell in love with classic cars in the first place. They tell stories no modern car ever could. They carry the fingerprints of their time, the hopes, the dreams, the craftsmanship. For some, the 1960 Chrysler New Yorker might just be an old four-door sedan. But for others, for those who understand what it represents, it's a rolling piece of art, a symbol of a bygone America that believed anything was possible. It's a car that captures the imagination and invites you to step back into a world where design was bold, engines were mighty, and luxury was defined by presence, not screens or gadgets. And maybe that's what makes it timeless. Even after 65 years, it still stands tall, elegant, and proud, just as Chrysler intended. The world around it may have changed, but the New Yorker remains what it always was. A masterpiece of motion, a celebration of style, and a reminder that true automotive beauty never fades.